Hello everyone. Today you'll hear a brief recap of the movie Fighter in the Wind. Korea, the 1940s. The country is under Japanese rule. A young boxer named Choi Yeung-Eui decides to travel to Japan to enroll in an aviation school, even though Koreans are not welcome there. To do this, he knocks out a Japanese soldier aboard a ship and steals his uniform. After sneaking into the city, he runs into a street hustler who threatens to turn him over to the Japanese police unless he pays up. After getting hit in the groin, the hustler curses in Korean. It turns out that Chimbi is Korean too, although he denies it until the very end. The police start chasing the boxer, while local gangsters go after the hustler. Chimbi hides in a truck where Yeung-Eui is already sitting. Both men manage to escape their pursuers. Along the way, Chimbi laughs at Yeung-Eu's dream of becoming a pilot. Since a war is going on, he believes Yeung-Eui would probably end up dead anyway. Soon they discover that the truck is heading directly to the aviation school. Chimbi immediately jumps out, but quickly jumps back in when he notices a group of Japanese mobsters nearby. The new companions arrive at an Air Force base, but Yeung-Eui never becomes a pilot. Instead, he and his friend find themselves tied to a post while the base is being bombed. Commander Makoto explains that they are Koreans who refuse to become kamikaze pilots. Chimbi starts yelling insults at the Japanese. Two men rush toward him, but our hero quickly knocks them both down. Kato becomes interested in Yeung-Eui after learning that he practices the Korean martial art Taekyon. The Japanese fighter challenges him to a duel. If the Korean wins, they all go free. If he loses, a terrible fate awaits him. Unfortunately, Yeung-Eui cannot land a single hit on the karate master and ends up on the ground, but he refuses to lose to an imperialist. He grabs a stone and smashes it into Kato's face. A few moments later, however, the karate fighter knocks him unconscious and even wounds him with a katana. Yeung-Eui miraculously survives. Later that year, Japan is forced to surrender after the atomic bombings. The country falls into chaos. At a Tokyo market, the Koreans make money by attracting curious passers-by to play pachinko machines. Business is going well until the Yakuza show up. They smash the machine, and after hearing Korean curses, they decide to kill Chimbi as well. Yeung-Eui rushes in to save his friend and gives the gangsters a serious beating. However, the gang leader slashes his shoulder with a katana. When the blade stops just inches from his neck, Yeung-Eui loses control and wets himself, splashing the Yakuza's shoe. The gangster humiliates him in front of the crowd. The Korean obeys. He licks the dirty shoe and even calls himself a coward. At that moment, a man standing in the crowd steps forward. Instead of a hand, he has a metal hook. The gangsters know who he is and are afraid of him, but they attack anyway. Even with only one arm, he defeats the entire gang. The fight finally ends when police officers arrive at the scene. The man's name is Bum-soo. He is also a Korean immigrant and lives with a traveling circus troupe. Yeung-Eui apologizes to him for the humiliation he suffered. Bum-soo dreams of building a school for Korean children in Japan so they will never forget their native language. Yeung-Eui begs his rescuer to teach him how to fight like that. When Bum-soo refuses, he sits outside in the pouring rain and refuses to leave. Many years ago, Bum-soo had been a servant in Yeung-Eu's family and taught the boy the basics of martial arts. One day, however, he was wounded and captured by Japanese soldiers. Even now, he still calls Yeung-Eui young master and gives him a book written by the legendary swordsman Miyamoto Musashi. One day, the Koreans run into Kato as he enters the Karate Association building. He mocks Yeung-Eui and once again calls him a coward. Discouraged and ashamed, Yeung-Eui loses the motivation to train. Seeing this, Bum-soo gives him several practical lessons. One night, an American soldier tries to assault a Japanese woman. The police do nothing, so our hero steps in to protect her. Now Yeung-Eui can't stop thinking about the beautiful girl. Unfortunately, he is completely clueless when it comes to women. He works as a rickshaw driver and secretly gives Yoko and her friend a ride. During the trip, Yoko talks about her mysterious savior, the tiger, who protects Japanese women from American soldiers. Yeung-Eui decides that this is exactly what he will do at night. Soon, the authorities put a bounty on him. The reward is a whole $2. The more criminals and attackers he beats up, the higher the bounty becomes. He gives all the tokens and rewards he collects to the girl he likes. But one day, American soldiers corner him and wound his shoulder. Yeung-Eui manages to escape. Yoko hides him in her home and treats his injuries. The girl discovers that he is her mysterious savior and suggests that they become friends. Over time, friendship turns into romance. One night, the tiger is brought before Kato. Kato boasts that he has practiced karate since the age of 5 and that nobody has ever defeated him. The only person who ever managed to land a hit on him was Bei Dao. Because of that, he admits that the Korean possesses the spirit of a true fighter. However, he refuses to call him a tiger. According to Kato, Bei Dao lacks the honor of a samurai. Meanwhile, the Yakuza come to extort Korean circus performers and take away their food ration cards. Their only defender is the one-armed Bum Soo. The gangsters surround him. The fight seems even, until the gang leader treacherously attacks from behind and cuts him down with a katana. Bei Dao arrives too late to help his mentor. The Korean community mourns the hero's death. Consumed by rage, Bei Dao straps a club to his arm and goes out for revenge. Other men join him. Soon, a massive street brawl erupts. The Yakuza boss draws his katana, but a huge fighter responds by stabbing him repeatedly in the stomach. During the chaos, Bei Dao is struck on the head and loses consciousness. Eventually, soldiers arrive to break up the fight. After these events, Bei Dao realizes that he wants to change his life and become someone he can truly be proud of. Gathering his few belongings, he leaves Yoko behind and heads into the mountains. Living as a barefoot hermit, he hardens his body in the freezing cold. He strikes rocks with the edge of his hand and smashes his fists against trees. He even cuts off his eyebrows with a knife as part of his brutal training. Bei Dao also spends his days running through the forest and practicing his strikes. He studies from the book written by Miyamoto Musashi. Over time, he destroys all of his training equipment and even manages to split a massive rock. The Korean fighter takes a Japanese name for himself, Majutatsu Oyama. Wearing a dirty, torn karate gi, he walks into town and enters the best karate school around to show everyone what he is capable of. The karate practitioners refuse to fight outsiders, claiming they don't want to injure him. In response, Bei Dao brings protective gear and offers it to his opponents so they won't get hurt themselves. The arrogant behavior of the bedwetter from the market infuriates the proud Japanese fighters, and they decide to teach him a lesson. The first curly-haired fighter goes flying after a single punch. The second is dropped with a body shot. The next few are knocked out by strikes to the head. Eventually, the school's strongest fighter steps forward. Oyama destroys him with just a couple of low kicks. News about the beast who defeated 10 karate fighters spreads quickly and is even printed in the local newspapers. Kato is furious. At that time, he is busy teaching karate to Japanese police officers. Still dressed like a wandering vagabond, Oyama travels across the country, challenging one dojo after another. No one can withstand his brutal fighting style. Journalists document all of his victories. One day, a dangerous fighter dressed in black attacks him without warning, but Oyama wins that fight as well. Later, Oyama appears at Yoko's doorstep. With tears in his eyes, he embraces her. After all this time, the dirty wanderer finally gets to bathe in hot water. Yoko cannot understand why the man she loves has chosen such a difficult life. She worries that he will leave again, and eventually, Majutatsu continues his journey. He defeats masters of every martial art he encounters: judo, kabuto, karate, aikido, and many others. No one can stop him. The newspapers call him the best fighter in Japan, a true hero. Even children across the country begin copying his appearance. Performers on stage discuss how only one man can possibly defeat him, Kato, who has now become the president of Japan's Martial Arts Association. Kato, however, still refuses to recognize Oyama as a true karate master. To him, the Korean is nothing more than a brawler, a ragged drifter who ignores tradition and etiquette. One day, while walking with Yoko, Oyama finds a long line of people waiting for his autograph. At that very moment, an assassin suddenly plunges a knife into his stomach. A doctor treats his wounds at Yoko's house. An elderly woman scolds Yoko for bringing a man into the home. As a geisha, she is expected to devote herself to only one patron. Later, Oyama receives the very dagger that was used to stab him, along with a message inviting him to come to a temple. While Yoko is tending to her bonsai trees, he confesses his fears. He admits that he is afraid of dying or becoming crippled and never seeing Yoko again. Yoko worries about him constantly as well. She fears that one day he will die in another fight. She begs Majutatsu to promise that he will stop fighting, and he gives her that promise. What follows is a night of love between the two. Meanwhile, Kato's one-eyed lieutenant waits for the wounded Oyama at the temple. To make sure he shows up, they brutally attack his friend Chimbi. The Korean doesn't even get the chance to finish breakfast with Yoko. Chimbi is beaten severely, and a knife is driven completely through his hand. And next time, their target will be Yoko. Holding his wounded side, Oyama limps toward the temple. The one-eyed fighter steps out to meet him, katana in hand. The Korean has a plan in mind, but the Japanese swordsman is far faster than he expected. Oyama does everything he can to avoid the deadly blade. At one point, he grabs the sword with his bare hands and redirects it into his own shoulder. He willingly takes a through-and-through wound so that he can land a decisive punch. The hero regains consciousness only the next morning. Beside him sits the lifeless body of the one-eyed Japanese fighter. Oyama is arrested and thrown into jail. He refuses to meet with Yoko, but the determined young woman visits the police station day after day. According to Kato, he had nothing to do with the plot against Oyama. His subordinate, Ryoma, was hired by the elderly masters of the Martial Arts Association. Kato offers to fight the former bedwetter, but Oyama refuses. He remembers the promise he made to Yoko. Besides, the one-eyed fighter already forced him to stain his hands with blood. The old masters still want revenge against the Korean, and Kato publicly vows to kill him. Eventually, Oyama is released. The authorities rule that he acted in self-defense. Only Chimbi is there to greet him. Yoko watches him from inside a car one last time. Tears fill her eyes as she quietly drives away. Later, Oyama travels to the hometown of Ryoma, the man he killed. Ryoma left behind a widow and a teenage son. The karate fighter immediately reveals who he is and falls to his knees, begging for forgiveness. A full day passes. The Korean remains on his knees the entire time. When he asks for a hoe and a shovel so he can help with the work, the widow throws dirty water on him. Oyama spends his nights sleeping in a barn and eating raw vegetables. The local children bully Ryoma's son because he no longer has a father. No one is there to defend him, and according to local tradition, no one will accompany him to the top of the mountain. When Oyama hears this, he volunteers to carry the boy on his back. Along the way, he treats him to a baked potato. For the final stretch, the boy climbs the mountain on his own. At the summit, a magnificent view opens before them. By spring, Oyama and the boy have become close friends, and he helps the family with all kinds of work around the house. Eventually, Majutatsu visits Chimbi. Meanwhile, newspapers twist the story and make it seem as if he dishonored Ryoma's widow. One night, the woman comes to Oyama's barn carrying his worn-out karate gi. She has read the newspapers as well. Instead of condemning him, she asks him to become a role model for her son and to become the strongest man in Japan. Majutatsu leaves the boy a small karate figurine and departs from the village. Before the most important fight of his life, he finally cleans himself up and arrives at a field where an entire crowd of Japanese fighters awaits him. One by one, all the fighters are defeated. Then men armed with katanas begin moving toward him. Kato orders them to stop. He wants to deal with the Korean personally. After exchanging blows, Oyama gathers all of his strength and overwhelms the Japanese master. He breaks Kato's leg and stops a devastating punch just inches from his face. Majutatsu Oyama went on to found the Kyokushin karate organization in 1964. He created a legendary challenge in which a fighter must battle 100 opponents in succession. Oyama himself completed the Hyakunin Kyumite 3 times in 3 consecutive days. In the 57 years that followed, no more than 16 people are believed to have successfully completed the 100-man challenge.